This video will expand your understanding of thesis statements and introduce you to an effective method of developing and organizing both paragraphs and essays. Generally, an introduction for an academic essay consists of some kind of attention grabber, some background information on the topic, and then the thesis statement. Other genres tend to use different content and organization for their introductions, just as non-academic genres may not state an explicit thesis in the introduction. But what is a thesis for an academic essay? Well, it is literally a statement to be proved. You may be familiar with Martin Luther's famous 95 Theses. When Luther nailed those statements to his church door, he was not stating his firm, unchangeable opinion. Rather, he was proposing these ideas for debate, for being proven either true or false. So your thesis is a statement to be proved, and thus it is a statement that must be supported in the rest of the paper. Everything in the paper should relate to and support your thesis. Thus, it can also be defined as the main point or claim of your paper, or a 1 to 2 sentence summary of the entire paper. All thesis statements are not equal, and their quality depends partly on genre. A creative nonfiction essay, for instance, may not state a thesis until the conclusion, and even then it might be pretty vague. This is part of the audience's expectations for this genre. But an academic thesis should be stated in the introduction, and it should be clear, detailed, specific, and purposeful. Consider these examples. What is the purpose or importance of the first statement? Why does that statement need to be proved? It doesn't, so there's no reason to write a paper about it, let alone to read one. The second statement has more purpose since it expresses a position or argument, but it lacks any details or specifics to engage the reader's interest and give a preview of the paper's content. Now you might think, but I don't want to give everything away in the thesis. But in reality, the more specific and detailed your thesis, the more purposeful and engaging it will be. The third statement seems to have an informative purpose, but it also suffers from vagueness and generality. In contrast, each of these statements communicates a clear purpose through its specific details. The first statement will explain or argue for the positive benefits of daylight savings time. The second will argue for discontinuing it due to a specific reason that the reader may or may not agree with. The last statement is purely informative, but it offers enough detail to show readers what they will learn from the paper, thus engaging their interest. In each example, a reader could possibly disagree with some or all of the statement's ideas. This is the crucial factor in an effective thesis and the key distinction between a poor and a strong thesis. Its purpose, details, and specifics will determine whether, how, and how much a reader could disagree with the thesis. If a paragraph has PEE structure, then it has a clear point, some supporting examples or evidence, and some explanation of how those examples or evidence support the point. Ideally, the point will relate directly or possibly indirectly to the essay's thesis. And thus, everything in a PEE paragraph connects in some way to the thesis. Good writers use P structure naturally, but I think it is worth discussing because you can better control it once you understand it. P structure has many benefits for your writing. It helps you relate your supporting ideas to your thesis, and it provides a structure in which you can develop and organize your ideas, preventing any confusion or questions for the reader and creating a smooth flow in your writing. Here is an example of a P paragraph. It's a little silly, but you can get the general idea. State a point, support it with examples or evidence, and explain the examples or evidence. The last point is especially vital. Many writers mistakenly believe that their readers will figure out how the examples or evidence relates to the point or even the essay's thesis. In reality, most readers will struggle to figure out the connections unless the writer explicitly develops them. In this example, the first statement in the blue box is the thesis for this essay about Aunt Jane. And then the first sentence in the white box, Aunt Jane works very hard at her job, is the point sentence, which is then supported by a sentence of example or evidence and a sentence of explanation of that evidence. Piece structure can help you create a well-organized essay as shown in this slide. If the point sentence of each paragraph relates to your thesis, and everything in each paragraph relates to its point, then the entire essay becomes a focused, unified, coherent whole. You may have noticed that I just presented a classic 5-paragraph essay, an introduction with a thesis and 3 supporting body paragraphs. We're missing only a conclusion that restates the thesis, and that is pretty clearly implied in my example. So, please note that what I just presented should be viewed as a foundation, not an ideal. I used the 5-paragraph model in this video only to help explain how piece structure contributes to an essay's overall organization. I do not want you to write 5-paragraph essays. There's no reason why you can't have 6 paragraphs, or 4, or 10, or 20, or however many are necessary. There is no reason why you can't have 2 supporting points developed over 8 paragraphs, or 4 supporting points developed in 10 paragraphs. In other words, I want you to use PEE, or point evidence explanation structure, but do not let yourself be constrained by it. If you have any questions, please email jsentell@cmo.edu. Thank you.